What's up, everybody? Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz. On time today, everybody. How about that? Got it kicked off early. Got it on right at 7:30. Actually live here right at 7:30. So no John Standard Time tonight. That's how you guys know that I'm on top of it today. All right. I am on top of it. And we're going to get to the bottom of what exactly is going on with Colorado. Because if you were with me on Wednesday, you know that was a very interesting live show. That was a fairly wild live show because we were talking about Colorado, all of the smoke surrounding Colorado to the Big 12, and at the same time, got a little bit of breaking news, essentially, I guess. We got a tweet. A tweet happened from the Colorado Athletic Director, Rick George, obviously commenting on the situation, commenting on MHV3R. I can't get that name right. And shout out to my guy, Greg Flugar. There's another great YouTube channel, Peek Around the Corner, that you guys should all subscribe to. I've heard him referring to him as like McIver. And I was like, you know what? That's a way better way to do it than whatever the hell I've been trying to say this whole time and always stumbling over it. And like I get the 3 in the wrong place. But you guys know who I'm talking about, right? The West Virginia Twitter personality, I will say, that is tweeting the inside info according to his sources. I've always treated it a little bit more like entertainment as opposed to legitimate information. And apparently Rick George, the Colorado Athletic Director, would agree. But I think a lot of the discourse around this has turned into, well, you know, pretty typical discourse between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. And it just needs to chill and slow down a little bit. So we're going to discuss that today. Plus, when I say that we have the latest on the Colorado situation, the latest is that we have an actual agenda item for the board meeting here that's happening tomorrow. So we have a description there, and it is, again, it's almost like Colorado said, how can we put out a description that will light up both sides of the conversation of the Pac-12 and the Big 12? I mean, I get that virtually anything does that now. We're such a polarized society that you get dug in on your side. But it was just perfect. It was a perfectly vague enough, but yet specific enough agenda item to get both sides really talking here about what exactly is going to go on. And so we'll break it all down. I think it really requires a lot of nuance to discuss. And the problem here is that so much of the discourse about conference realignment in Big 12 versus Pac-12 is that there is not much nuance at all that happens. Everybody has to be a hot take on one side or the other. It has to be the Big 12's dunking on the Pac-12 here, or the Pac-12's dunking on the Big 12. Frankly, we just don't know. We don't know. The Colorado statement here was so vague that we just really do not have a great idea for what is going on. And until it actually happens, or until somebody gets a source that is somebody in that room, which certainly ain't going to be me, then we're just not really going to know what's going on with that. So we'll get into that. We'll get into what and why the Rick George, I guess what the Rick George tweet means, why perhaps he chose that opportunity to go after somebody who's not even a legit media member, when there have been stories from legit media members citing Colorado having real interest in joining the Big 12. We'll get to that today. Let's see what else we got. This is left over from last show, but we did not really get to dive into at all that Jamie Zaninovich, who is the number 2 in charge, was the number 2 in charge of the Pac-12, has left and taken a different job at what feels like a pretty crucial time. Now, the twist to that is that he will be doing some consulting work with the Pac-12 on their TV deal in his new job. So, like, just a weird, kind of fascinating scenario there. I have a little bit more on the Brett Yormark talk about going to Mexico, like trying to start Big 12 Mexico, making the Big 12 a little bit more international. I have some extra context there from somebody else, a Big 12 staffer that did an interview earlier this week. And we've got some elite level trolling from our friends at BYU, man. I tell you what, some elite level trolling from BYU's Coug Connect. Shout out to Coug Connect, the NIL collective. For BYU, or at least one of them. I don't know if there are multiple at BYU or not. I know they seem to do a really good job with NIL, but we've got to get to that because BYU, you have impressed me. You've impressed me. There's that meme that goes around that's like, I'm sorry, I did not realize what it's like. I'm sorry, I did not realize your game. I did not understand the game you have, something like that. That's the one that is deserving here of BYU for their trolling of Utah and the Pac-12 all in one fell swoop. So you know that's going to get gobbled up like some red meat here around these parts. Real quick, I forgot to tweet this out, so let me go ahead and give it a tweet. Thank you for bearing with me. YouTube live right now. The latest on Colorado. Bam. Okay, there we go. You guys know the deal. You've been here before. You can dictate the content here tonight. You can be a part of the show by clicking the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you can donate and not only support the work I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a weekly basis, but it will ensure that your comment makes the live show. And it will also pin your chat up at the top for me. So that's how it gets stuck there, supersedes everything else. Make sure that you will get on the show. You can help dictate some of the content. You can make your voice heard and at the same time support the work that I'm doing to bring you regular Big 12 content. Once again, you click the $ below the chat box where it says say something to do that. Another thing that you can do totally for free to help support the channel is just simply to give that video a like. Almost 200 people in here. We've only got 25 likes. Let's get those numbers up, everybody. Just one click. That's all I'm asking. And that will also help me out. Comment on the video after the fact. That will also help drive up that YouTube algorithm. So certainly if you are catching this after the fact, I'd appreciate it if you did that. Tell me you love me. Tell me you hate me. Whatever it is, it does not matter because it all helps the old powerful algo. So that would be great if you could do that. Let's see. What else am I missing here? Might be about it. We're ready to get off and running here with the show. What's up, Michael? I see Michael in here. Michael, I appreciate your donation and your support as always, my friend. Michael says, I hear BYU, I throw money. Thanks, Kurtz. CW country. Yes, Michael. Maybe we've got to just hop into that here before the nitty-gritty of the Colorado board statement, which I'm sure everybody is going to love, right? Everyone's going to love this. So BYU's Coug Connect, the NIL collective, put up a billboard, I assume in Salt Lake City. I didn't see anyone specifically say that. I just saw like in enemy territory, something like that. So, I mean, I am to assume that it's in Salt Lake. But it says, this is CW country. It says, this is CW country. And it's got the CW logo like in green. So it looks like the actual logo of the channel, right? The CW, which has become very in vogue here lately with the Pac-12 flirting, or I guess depending on who you talk to, maybe not quite flirting with them to be a TV partner. It's been out there quite a bit, and that is tremendous trolling no matter what. Because what I said about this thing all along is like, hey, on the surface, this is why it's such great trolling. The CW is not as bad as it would look because of how vastly it is carried across the country and the fact that it is actual like legit cable TV instead of just all streaming. It's a better option for the Pac-12 than having to take like 70-80% of your content and be all streaming. But at the same time, it is an objectively hilarious headline to think about Pac-12 games on the CW. It is quite funny. And so you drive the stake in when you can. That's good trolling, BYU. That is very, very good trolling. That is how it is done. And I wish I could give it justice. You really have to see it. You really have to see it to get it in full view here. I'm going to pull it up just for myself. If you follow at Coug Connect, COUG Connect on Twitter, and then just click media. When you're looking at their profile, click media, and it'll be like the third thing down, and you can see the billboard. So this is CW country, and the CW does have an asterisk, okay? And then in tiny writing underneath, it says Cougar Write-Ups. So this is Cougar Write-Ups country, but the big logo is just CW, and it looks like a green CW logo. I mean, I guess I'm not sure how much that will really trigger the brain of like your average Salt Lake Cityan, your average pedestrian that might be out there, somebody driving their car. But if it's anybody that has any idea about college athletics, that is great, and you know that is digging at them right away. That is just awesome. I was trying to see some of the reaction to this. I feel like more of the reaction came from one of the quote tweets that popped up, but there was um, somebody like threatening to sue. I believe it was. Now I'm not going to be able to find it. In one of the quote tweets that somebody had brought up, I saw somebody being like, "Hey, it was like the CW could sue you for using their logo like that, for using a logo that looks as similar as it does to the CW." And I was like, "Man, we have just jumped the shark on where are we at in conference realignment world where that's what we're getting to? We're discussing the discourse on Twitter has now devolved into people saying like, hey, you're going to get sued for using the CW's logo because the CW is legitimately flirting with the Pac-12 to carry some of their game. Like because we might have to watch Oregon State Cal on the CW, we're talking about litigation around the CW's logo. I mean, it's hysterical. Like it's I kind of love it and hate it. You guys know for a long time I said like realignment, a blessing and a curse, endless source of content, very fascinating, but also like everybody claims that they have a source and people can be wrong. Like there's lots of good and bad with it. And this to me kind of falls into both. Like I love the zaniness of college sports and the extra personality. And these are this is just stuff that you would not get with the NFL, right? No, not getting this with the NFL, but you get it with college sports. And I love the ridiculousness of it, but at the same time, it can be a little bit exhausting. And so some of the discourse gets a bit exhausting on that. But I have to give a shout out to BYU there. I got to be honest, didn't think BYU, all I've heard, your fans are so damn nice. Like everybody's been so nice to me. Sent me a t-shirt just the other day. Like I see the ice cream, giving the ice cream to visitors when they come to the games. Like everybody is so nice and welcoming. I didn't expect that. I'm impressed. I did not realize that there was that layer to BYU and your game. So look, I'm all about that. I am all about some trolling. I am 1000% about some trolling, but my key there is I always want it to be clever, right? I always want it to be clever. And 9 times out of 10, I feel like I try to at least be clever. Sometimes I do get carried away too much with, XYZ guy 76543 whatever, and just throw out something very lowbrow. But I try to be clever because clever always works better than like vulgar or anything like that. So that's pretty clever. It's pretty clever. And it reminded me of, didn't UCF, somebody can help me out in the chat, but like, I feel like UCF did that to Florida recently. Didn't they put up a billboard like in Gainesville or somewhere around there talking about like UCF has every right to be talking smack to, all 3 of the big ones in Florida, Florida State, and Miami right now, based on UCF's profile the last 5 to 10 years compared to theirs. And that's a move I would very much expect from UCF, loudest Twitter fan base in the country. Someone was doing a tournament of Twitter fan bases, like the most hated Twitter fan bases, by the way, this week. And I saw we had a matchup of UCF versus Utah. And I thought, damn, man, that is a matchup of titans right there in terms of hated Twitter fan bases. 2023 Utah against UCF. That's a, people will say, hey, like that was a Final Four caliber game that was just played in February or whatever. That's a Final Four caliber matchup on Twitter of hated fan bases. UCF against Utah. The 2017 national champions against the back-to-back Pac-12 Big Ten Challenge runners-up. Quite an epic battle there between Utah and UCF. Anyway, wanted to make sure that BYU got recognized for that. That did not go unnoticed at this here desk in front of me. So thank you. Thank you, Coup Connect. Hopefully, it seems like you guys are just killing it all the way around. I know you got some money, and now I know that you got some great trolling ability in there too. So thank you. Thank you all for that. Cat Fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne. What is up, my friend? Appreciate your generosity as always. Thank you. And I love the message that you come in with here today. I know not everybody is going to care about K-State baseball, but yeah, K-State beat Kansas 21-18 today in baseball. 21-18. The wind was howling. And look, I'm in Kansas City, Lawrence, close to an hour away. if the wind was anything in Lawrence like it was here in Kansas City, it was pretty crazy. So the ball was just sailing out of the ballpark. It was wild. But K-State won 21-18. They swept Kansas, and K-State now second in the Big 12 in baseball. Not that. Don't look now. The Cats are second in the Big 12 in baseball. Daniel says, wish I could have been there. I should have probably gone. I didn't really plan my day around it. I wanted to go yesterday, but the game got moved from 2 to 4 and then to 6, and I couldn't do it that late. So I was going to try and go if it were still at 2. I didn't have a chance to make it over there this weekend. I wish that I would have. That would have been a freaking blast. So there you go, Daniel. There you go, man. It was great. K-State 5-1 in men's sports against Kansas this year. Nice stat there. The 21 that K-State scored today, Kansas football has only done that once in the last 11 years against K-State. So I got stats for days on all that. I got stats for days. I know, Jayhawks. You just go turn on that national championship DVD from last year, and all would be right with the world. That's exactly what I would do right now. But you know what? This is what we got. So we gotta get our shots in while we can here. But I appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your generosity. And yes, I should have gone for both of us, for both of our sakes today, out to Twinton Family Stadium East in Lawrence. Rato Sky, what's up, Rato Sky? Rato Sky says, big fan, love your work, go blue. Hey, I appreciate that. So Michigan fan in here then. I love that. Love branching outside of just our Big 12 and sometimes Pac-12 brethren and friends. And I see Wolf 58. I'll get to Wolf 58's comment in just a moment, but I see Wolf 58 in here too. So we got Michigan and Ohio State represented in the chat tonight, man. How about that? I love that. I love to see that. Andrew, what's up, Andrew? Andrew Woodward chiming in. I appreciate your support, my friend. Thank you very much for being here. Andrew says, no questions, just an attaboy for JK delivering with dynamite content. Well, thank you, sir. Says, never stammers or misspeaks, delivers Big 12 content. Don't think people realize how challenging that is listening live in Miami. That is incredibly kind of you, Andrew. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I will just say this is the benefit of a 10-year career in radio where I was doing a 2-hour radio show in a college town every single month of the year. So you have to learn to fill content when nothing is going on in the doldrums of summer. And I had some pretty, it wasn't that they were really particularly lean years necessarily for K-State, but they were boring content-wise because you had Bill Snyder, who notoriously was not allowing any access to the program at all. There were no cool media things happening. You had to work for whatever it was you were going to get. And then Bruce Weber, who was not that like locked down, but just certainly not what like Jerome Tang's program is right now, where there are just stories teeming everywhere. There's just information teeming everywhere. So like you develop that muscle of, hey, let's find ways to be creative with what we got. Let's find ways to create some content here. And then you got to talk, man. That red light comes on. You got to talk and you got to figure it out. So that is, I will give all the credit to the time that I spent in the radio world there. So glad that you're enjoying it, Andrew. Glad that it's paying off here, and glad that I can help grow an awesome community of Big 12 fans here. So thank you very much. Really do appreciate that. It's great to be recognized in a world where, most of the time you're just getting angry comments. So I appreciate you, Andrew. Thank you, my friend. Wolf 58. What's up, Wolf 58? Wolf 58 says, perhaps I'm in the minority, but isn't all this Pac-12 stuff exhausting? It's like a bad song you can't get out of your head. Honestly, I don't know that you're really in the minority. Like, it's exhausting to me as somebody that does follow it, and I cover maybe isn't the right word. I wouldn't really feel right saying that I like cover this. I mean, because I'm not Big J journalist, I'm not still legitimately in the media game out there, but keeping up with it is exhausting. It is. It 100% is. And I feel like the Pac-12 kind of has added to that itself. I mean, I would submit the Rick George tweet from the Colorado athletic director as the latest example of that, where that kind of ratcheted up the noise and the narrative and took us through another turn. And we're hitting one of those like at least once a week. New media cycle, new cycle of people regurgitating the same information and fighting back and forth online and pushing things back, and presidents speaking out of turn and changing people's expectations. It does. I mean, it is 100% exhausting. The problem is, Wolf 58, I would say the same thing about like just social media in general. Social media is very exhausting. It is exhausting to just be reading people fighting online, or to be looking at Instagram and comparing yourself with the lives of others. Like all that stuff is exhausting, but yet we come back to it every single day. We're still logging on every single day. I just got my little screen time report from the iPhone earlier today and was like, damn, it was up like 18% last week. I've been trying to cut down and I was doing better. And then that, it came back and it's like, we're addicted to it. Like, I think that's really it. We're all just kind of addicted to it. We love this so much. And it is very interesting, regardless of whether or not it's exhausting. It is very interesting. And so we're just addicted to it. And we come back to it time after time after time. So that's kind of the comp that I would give to it. The other thing is like, even though it is exhausting, it's like if you have skin in the game here, right? If you're a Big 12 school or you're a Pac-12 school, you have skin in the game. These decisions and like whatever happens it's so consequential to you. It is so consequential to your, like the existence of your fandom here and being able to maintain a spot at a table that at least somewhat satisfies you with having a shot at the ultimate prize here and being a part of the big boys club in college football and college basketball. So that's another reason why it's exhausting. You're like living and dying with every little thing because it could dramatically alter the course of your school and your fandom. So the stakes are just so high, is another reason why it feels so exhausting whenever something happens. So just my perspective on it there, but know that you are not alone, Wolf 58. I would guess that a lot of people who even like regularly frequent this channel and anybody that does, the 365 guys, Greg Flugar, like Kuz, like everybody who's doing a great job covering all this. Like, I feel like we probably all are in the same boat on that, but we're kind of sickos, right? We're kind of sickos. Shout out to the sickos committee. One other, a must follow for college football and college basketball out there on Twitter. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Michael, I see. Michael says Coup Connect is an NIL group, not actually BYU. Yeah. I mean, yeah, fair enough. I know that it's not like affiliated with the university, that it is just the one of the NIL collectives or the NIL collective. But I'm associating it with like BYU fandom, right? Like those are people that care deeply about BYU. So I'm giving you guys credit. I don't mean to like try and do any negative association there with the university. It was meant as like a blanket, just giving the fan base credit. Giving the BYU fan base credit there for what went on with Coup Connect and that billboard. Alan, what's up, Alan? I appreciate you being here, Alan. Always really do appreciate your support, my friend. Alan says, John, thanks for being the voice of the Big 12. If Brett only picks up 2 Pac-12 teams, are there 2 teams in the East he might consider? Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, Alan. Thank you for the question, Alan. I definitely think there are a couple things to add when we're talking about the East. One is I think the more pressing right now, which would be this basketball conversation. Like, can Brett Yormark coax like UConn, St. John's, Creighton to come along with Gonzaga and form Villanova and form like a real basketball absolute powerhouse and super league? That is one of the big questions that I have right now, because I do believe that is a big priority. I think that they are working on that. I do buy into that. And those obviously are options from the East. Now, I don't think that's really within the spirit of your question, what you're asking about. You would be asking about more like full-time members, though I have seen it kicked around. Like, would UConn be able to get a full membership invite, bring their football over as well? Probably worthy of a discussion. But in the East, as far as like the ACC imploding, I mean, that is definitely something like I see the Big 12 would very much, I would think, be in play for. Like, well, Louisville, came fairly close to being in the Big 12 once upon a time. And if the ACC were to break off, it's going to be because we're already seeing the grumbling from Miami, Florida State, North Carolina about wanting unequal revenue sharing. They're feeling the pinch of how far behind they're going to be from their rivals in the SEC here pretty soon if they continue on their terrible TV contract. So if that were to get like challenged in court, that teams were to say, just screw it, we'll leave it and try and litigate it and figure it out, then maybe, yeah, you're talking about like Louisville, Pitt, teams in that tier in the ACC that you could be picking up as well. And that's always been, I've told you guys, like my hope here, and what I think you try to do if you're the Big 12 is just be positioned as the next best league, so that if and when that does happen, to the Pac-12, you can just scoop everybody else up and you become the 3rd best conference in America. That's to me the play long term here for you. So I do. I do think that that's there. And if Colorado and Arizona are the only ones that are really going to want to leave right now from the Pac-12, maybe that is what it is. And maybe then the Pac-12 is forced to either go beyond San Diego State and SMU or just add them and stay at 10 and see how it goes. I think there are a couple scenarios there in which that could play out where the Big 12 does just pick up 2 from the Pac-12. And we've seen now Andrew Marchand report, watch Colorado. We have seen The Athletic and Stuart Mandel say that he had heard that Colorado was certainly something to watch there and that was a possibility. So there is plenty of smoke there around Colorado and Arizona. I think we all felt like was the most likely for a long time, was the most likely to leave anyway. So both of those, I think that would be the scenario you'd be looking at there. But appreciate the questions. If you guys want to hop in, you want to make your voice heard on the chat tonight, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you hop in. Make sure that your comment gets in here. We got 363 people in the chat here tonight. If you want to get on, click that $ to donate, and it will pin it up at the top for me, supersede everything else. You're supporting the work that I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis here on the channel, and controlling some of the content here tonight. Also, if you could like the video, I would very much appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribed if you have not subscribed already, and click that bell so you get alerts when I drop content or when it is that I'm going live. Okay, let's get into the specifics of what we have seen now about this Colorado board meeting, which is tomorrow. And it's bright and early, 7:45 a.m. Mountain Time. So by the time most of us, if you're in the Central Time Zone, by the time most of us are like showing up to work, getting ready to go to work tomorrow, this Colorado board meeting will be kicking off. And here was the specific wording on this, okay? And here's where, speaking of exhausting, we get to dive into specific words and how Colorado put it on the agenda for the board meeting. But this is what they say. It will be for, quote, legal advice on a specific matter, athletic matters. Legal advice on a specific matter, athletic matters. That's what we have from Colorado. So I know you could see that and say, hey, legal advice on a specific matter, athletic matters. That's 100%. It's got to be about leaving the Pac-12. That has to be what it is, because that is a statement that when I said it was vague enough, but yet specific enough to get both sides talking, that the specificity of it there is like, okay, a legal matter on the athletic side, that certainly qualifies if you're trying to leave a conference. Like, what are the what do we have to, what I's need to be dotted, what T's do we have to have crossed? How does all this go down if we're going to leave? That would certainly fall under that umbrella. But at the same time, that is such a broad statement. It could be any number of things. It could also be, even if you feel like, all right, for sure, this is going to be about leaving the Pac-12, then it's all right. Well, like, what stage is that at? Is it, we got some new updates here and we need to run that. We got some new updates on what the Pac-12 media deal might be, and we need to run that past our team for some reason and see what's going on there. Like, what stage, how developed is this actually throughout the process? I mean, there are a bazillion things that could be. So that's kind of my point on all this. And I feel like I tried to say that on Wednesday as well. Like, this is when coupled with the Marchand report where he said, watch Colorado, and Stuart Mandel, who again, Pac-12 guy, West Coast guy, saying that you should be watching Colorado. Paired with that, it is very easy to get excited and a little over your skis. And I would hypothesize that perhaps some of that happened with, McIver? Maybe I'll just steal that one from Greg Flugar. McIver, MHV3R, whatever. Maybe getting a little bit out over the skis there with his tweet that was refuted by Colorado AD Rick George, which was said, heard from a source that Colorado board may vote on leaving the Pac as early as Monday. I think like that, when I talk about what his tweets are, you could look at that and say, all right, well, he saw that there's a board meeting Monday. He knows that there have been a couple of reports here from very credible journalists that Colorado may be a flight risk. It would be very easy to put it together and just say, hey, my sources are telling me that the Colorado board may vote on leaving the Pac-12 as early as Monday. Again, keeping it intentionally not quite specific enough to get totally nailed down on something. That is where I feel like some of these may be coming from. Again, I'm not here to, you guys follow him. You should. It's entertaining. If nothing else, you can choose whether or not to like believe the sources or if there are sources and all that. I'm not trying to run them down. I'm just saying for those of us that kind of think like, some of this feels like it could be a little bit contrived based on what's going on, and just a really smart guy knowing the pulse of what's happening right now and how to get people going. It would be exactly for a tweet like this. And that's what Rick George jumped on top of, where he said there is absolutely no truth to this tweet. Now, I'm going to table that for now, because I think that whole interaction is worth analyzing. Why that? Why now? Why the specific wording? All that for Rick George. But as far as legal advice on a specific matter, athletic matters, another reason I would tell you not to get too terribly excited about something happening like this week, which I've seen that from some people. Like, hey, Colorado has had this specific language. This specific language has been used for 6 other meetings within the last year. And I saw Jeff Fuller tweet that 6 times in the last year, Colorado has used that wording. So that again, broad enough, but specific enough. Specific enough that if it were covering legitimate discussions about leaving the Pac-12, it fits, but broad enough that they've been able to use it 6 times within the last year for things that have happened at meetings here. So means that it could be a lot of different things, and I'm sure that is very intentional by Colorado to make that as broad as possible, not make it very specific at all, so as to have some plausible deniability no matter what happens. So I think that's very, very valuable, and this is where I just want to emphasize, I try to be fair here. I'm not looking at this and saying Colorado leaving next week for sure happening because of this board meeting. No, I fully understand the intentionality of how vague this is and the fact that this doesn't mean that something is happening right away. However, at the same time, remember the exhausting point from Wolf 58 earlier. If you go back to the 2010 Colorado board meeting, and I saw this on Greg Flugar's channel, so I'm going to give him a shout out. But the agenda for the board meeting in 2010, when Colorado left the Big 12 for the Pac-12, literally had this in it. It said, Chris Bosley announced the board would recess into executive session to receive legal advice regarding a specific matter as permitted under Colorado revised subsection, and then a bunch of numbers. So let's compare the two here. 2010, when they are leaving the Big 12 for the Pac-12, it said, Chris Bosley announced the board would recess into executive session to receive legal advice regarding a specific matter. That's the wording, to receive legal advice regarding a specific matter in 2010 when they left. The one for tomorrow says legal advice on a specific matter, athletic matters. I mean, it is literally outside of the dash and what's at the end of the dash, which just siphons it into a more particular point here about athletics. It's the same damn thing from 2010. So very clearly, this language has been recycled over and over again by Colorado because, I got to give it to them as a marketing guy and a guy who does a lot of internal comms for a company. That's pretty good. You find something like that fits the message that you're trying to put out there. Hey, basically what we're talking about, but we can't get too specific here, so you can't nail us down for something like that. It's well done. It's well executed. It's very smart. It's very wise by Colorado to do it this way. It could be everything and it could be nothing. That's what I've got for you. And I think that's the only real appropriate take to have right now. I think it has to just be wait and see on Colorado. I don't think it's fair to read more into it, again, because of the fact that they've used it 6 times within the last year and it is so vague. But you could be optimistic about it being some level of legitimate conversation about joining the Big 12 too, because of what that language is and because of what it was in 2010. So we've just seen Colorado will use this. They'll use this language in a variety of different ways. Doesn't mean anything, but it could still absolutely mean something. Now, as far as the Rick George part in this, the Colorado athletic director, I think the specific wording on what he did matters pretty greatly here too. So he did not go after, I think we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday, so there may be some overlap here, but I was trying to react in real time at that point after now having some time to sit and digest it and think about it a little bit more. He did not respond to the Andrew Marchand report saying, watch Colorado. He did not respond to Stuart Mandel's comments, which were out there, the Ben Criddle radio show in Utah, where, and maybe I can even pull my notes up from last time because I was about to try and paraphrase here, but I know that I actually have it here. Okay, so when Stuart Mandel was asked about Watch Colorado from Andrew Marchand, he said, "I heard something similar last week." So I heard something similar last week. So Stuart Mandel was echoing that sentiment instead of quote tweeting one of those two things or going after somebody who was talking about those specific comments. He goes after the anonymous Twitter account that a lot of us feel like kind of borders almost on fan fiction and entertainment as opposed to real information. There are questions there about the legit validity of it. That's who he chooses to go after. So I mean, I know that was the specific tweet that said, "Heard from a source that Colorado board may vote on leaving the Pac as early as Monday." But the second that you actually go out there and quote tweet that, you're kind of lending some credibility there almost to that account. I know that the words are saying the opposite, but when you are a sitting athletic director, you're going after just anonymous Twitter account guy. Anonymous West Virginia Twitter account guy is who you choose to quote tweet and go after. In sort of the same way that like Utah's athletic director decided to go after a YouTuber. Now, again, getting his message out there, and it was a good pun, and it was witty. It worked. It was kind of a double entendre. Like I thought it was pretty good. Mark Harlan, right? Is that the guy's name? I thought that was pretty solid. But here, Utah was being defiant in doing that, right? They were taking a shot at USC. They were asserting that they were the best brand in the Pac-12, and at the same time, throwing out a second message that like they're not going to be leaving this conference. There was a lot going on there. With Colorado, this just feels a little panicky to me almost. I don't think, once again, I'm not trying to say here I think it's imminent or anything that Colorado is leaving necessarily, but this to me makes me feel like there are legs to the Colorado rumors, because if Colorado were truly not going and just perfectly content and set in like where they're actually at, why would you need to respond to random anonymous guy on the internet to do that and put your message out there? And I know the Pac-12 has really struggled with messaging. Well, why would you feel the need to do that? Or maybe if, going after like pointing out the Andrew Marchand thing or pointing out the Stuart Mandel thing, going after like a more, legit bona fide journalist out there and refuting that story if it really isn't true. Instead, that's not what happened. What he did was he carefully chose the one that said Colorado board may vote on leaving the Pac as early as Monday. So this meeting could be all about in-depth discussions about the Big 12 and like, hey, I think we need to leave because of this. But yet he knows that they're not going to vote on Monday, which I believe that meeting is virtual too. So like, I don't think you can vote virtually. I don't think that's really how it works. All that stuff matters. He knows that it's not going to be an actual vote. So if you just know that it's not going to be a vote, you can still come out here and say, look, this is getting a little out of hand. I know that Marchand's talking about it. I know that Mandel's talking about it. That means I know people behind the scenes are talking about it here. Smoke's getting a little bit too hot. I'm worried about what my colleagues in the Pac-12 are going to think right now. We're not totally decided on this. I need to calm it down a little bit. So let me pick out the specific tweet that doesn't say Colorado wants to leave or Colorado is thinking about leaving. No, I'll take the one that gives us a specific and says Colorado board may vote on leaving as early as Monday. That one I can take down and get the John Canzanos of the world going, oh, look, Colorado has spoken. Everything's great. And I can quiet down the narrative within my Pac-12 circle while also not committing myself to the Pac-12 in this, right? I think to me, that is how I would analyze it. I would say if I'm him, that's fairly carefully selected there as being able to shoot down a rumor, shoot down some of the noise, but not do it in a way that's going to give you egg on your face if you do in turn go to leave the Big 12. Because if that happens now, say it happens in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month from now, 2 months from now, whatever, it's not like somebody can say, well, hey, you had that quote tweet where you lied. No, he didn't lie. They didn't vote on it Monday. He just wanted to shut that part down. That to me, it's like leaving yourself some plausible deniability there with what the Colorado AD is doing. So I guess in a way smart, but also to me fairly telling. I think that is kind of telling that Rick George is feeling a little bit of the pressure there and understands that the word is starting to leak out, that there seems to be a legitimate conversation behind closed doors at Colorado about this. I mean, this is very unscientific, but even within his own fan base, the Colorado Barstool account ran a poll that was would you rather go to the Big 12 or the Pac-12? And it was like seemed about 70-30 Big 12 right now. The public tide even seems to be turning a little bit there. And there are certainly, I guess, there are plenty of voices within Colorado, both the athletic department. We've seen that. Sean Keeler from the Denver Post reported a long time ago that there were people high up in the Colorado athletic department that definitely favored leaving for the Big 12, and it was kind of split. He has to know that a lot of those voices are out there and people are pretty divided on what's going on as far as that goes. So felt the need to come out and say something. And to me, that is telling that there seemingly would be probably something to this, even if nothing is imminently going to happen at this board meeting tomorrow. So look, we'll see. I don't expect much. I don't expect really any fireworks. And kind of like, I'll just lump Colorado in with the Pac-12 as a whole. What has happened every time that we think the board of directors meeting within the Pac-12 or something like that is going to be this big linchpin moment, and then nothing happens, and then the can gets kicked down the road, and after John Canzano's spidey senses were tingling, all of a sudden he's saying, hey, meeting went great, but we're not going to get anything for a week or at least a couple weeks or whatever, and we just keep kicking that can down the road, right? That's happened so much. In Colorado, you're guilty by association by being in the Pac-12 there. So until I see something legitimately happen, until I see something actually tangible come from one of these things, I'm just going to say I don't expect anything major out of it, but we shall see. I think the thing to watch, I don't think you're going to get any kind of legitimate, tangible, certainly, that's what George just told us, any kind of vote or something like that out of it. I think it'll be interesting to watch the reporters and the news cycle and see if any of these reporters get wind or get hold of anything that was discussed there, if there were legitimate conversations that went down there. All right, if you guys want to be a part of the show tonight, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something to weigh in. We'll get your question or comment guaranteed on the show. We'll pin the chat up at the top for me. Make sure that I see it over everything else. We have over 400 people here in the chat tonight, so I cannot keep up with everything that's going on there. But click the $ below the chat box where it says say something in order to weigh in on the show. You can also like the video if you want to support the channel. I would really appreciate that. If you are catching it after the fact too, it's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo to support the channel as well. Like the video, leave a comment. All that stuff really helps. Subscribe and make sure that you have the bell clicked to get notifications on all of this as well. Okay, this got squeezed out last time. We didn't talk about it very much. It is interesting timing for sure for the Pac-12 here as they are in the throes of this TV deal discussion. They lost their number two. So Pac-12 Deputy Commissioner Jamie Zaninovich is leaving the conference after 9 years to become the managing director at Trail Runner International, a global strategic communications firm. Zaninovich doubles as the Pac-12's chief operating officer and has worked closely with Commissioner George Kliavkoff on the media rights negotiations. Friday will be his final day. Okay, so you read that and you think if it just stopped there, you'd be like, well, that doesn't sound good, right? It's just at this inflection point where we're finding out that, hey, despite all the Pac-12 presidents coming out and saying it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen soon, now we know it's not going to happen soon. And the reports are all like, hey, that was actually premature. They shouldn't have done that. We still have a ways to go on this deal. In the midst of that and all the negative news cycles and the CW jokes, all that stuff going on, the deputy director, chief operating officer, who has been working closely, this article from John Wilner, working closely on the TV deal, is just saying hey, see you later, I'm out. That would seem to not be very good. But I can't really have that take because the next line in the story is, however, his first consulting project at Trail Runner will be to advise the Pac-12 on the media negotiations, expansion, and basketball strategy. So he's leaving the Pac-12 to go work for a company called Trail Runner where he will consult the Pac-12 on media negotiations. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. That is a very interesting one. I guess I'd be interested if you guys have theories on that, because I don't totally know what to think or what to make of that. Is it just, I don't know, a career move that he wants to make, but still at the same time wanted to be involved and help see this thing through to the end? Who the hell knows, man? A little more from the article. His duties at the Pac-12 include serving as the liaison between the conference's executive staff and the athletic directors. Deputy Commissioner Teresa Gould, former athletic AD at UC Davis, is expected to take over that role. Okay, so Zaninovich was a former member of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, played a role in several strategic endeavors, including the move to a 20-game conference schedule in basketball, the implementation of non-con scheduling standards, and the creation of the series with the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Zaninovich will continue to live in the Bay Area. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see, I guess, if that has any sort of tangible effect. But it was when I saw the headline, I was like, oh boy, Pac-12 may be in some trouble. But that's the devil's in the details there. That's why you click and read the article, folks. I know Twitter tries to give you that little warning, right? Like if you just retweeted it or something, it's like, hey, are you sure you don't want to read the article first? Make sure you're reading the articles, folks, because that was an important one there in that story about the Pac-12 deputy commissioner and COO taking off and deciding to leave. Okay, couple of comments here. If you want to get your question or comment on the show, click the $ below the chat box where it says "Say something" in order to do so. We got no Texas fans chiming in on Arch Manning's performance in the Texas spring game. We've got no Arch Manning discussion here tonight. I did read up just a little bit on that, just in case, guys, just in case. If you're curious, Arch Manning 5 of 13 for 30 yards in the Texas spring game, and I watched on TikTok, of all places, a cut-up that somebody did of every single snap that Arch Manning had in the Texas spring game. So I saw it. I saw it all. I mean, he looks more athletic than I probably thought, but yeah, there wasn't a lot there. Not a lot happening. And Steve Sarkisian said after the game, quote, "I think it's pretty clear to say Quinn is our starting quarterback." So looks like it'll be Quinn Ewers, at least to start the year for Texas. I mean, I'm not going to crush Arch Manning or anything. The dude's, it's his first spring game in college football when he would still be in high school, right? Early enrollee. So whatever. We'll see what happens. Quinn Ewers, I'm still not very sold on either, but it does not shock me at all that he would still be significantly ahead of Arch Manning here at this point. Daniel, just popped away from me. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? I appreciate you being here. And Daniel, I know that you are a West Virginia fan. Definitely recognize you from Twitter, my friend. Appreciate your support of the channel. Daniel says, Mahiver, MHVER3, was banned from the West Virginia message board over some of the rumors he had. Ooh, okay. Granted, it was 10 years ago, and yes, I follow him. Yeah, I think that's the perfect attitude to have about it. I certainly don't dislike the guy at all. I find it very fascinating and entertaining to follow, and I won't stop following. But yes, I am very careful with treating any of it as like real, legitimate news. So yeah, it feels like you've got the right stance there. Interesting to get banned for that. Because I feel like, isn't that kind of like what message boards are for? Is like rumor mongering maybe seems to be a little too negative in the connotation there, but you dabble. You're certainly dabbling in rumors on a message board. But I don't know the details. I shouldn't. That's speaking out of turn a little bit on my part there. But it is important context. I think that's very good context, Daniel, to add there on all of that for sure. Calico, go. There we go. Calico, appreciate you being here, my friend. Calico, always appreciate your support of the channel. Thank you as always. Calico says, "Hi, John. A lot of Pac in the chat tonight crying. We're Big 12 fans like that when we thought we were on the ropes." Well, that's interesting. Obviously I can't pay attention enough to really pick up on that. Pac-12 fans not doing so hot. Well, I don't blame you if you're a Pac-12 fan and you're not doing so hot right now and lashing out a little bit, because I mean, no matter what the reality is, okay, let's say it like this, and I will try to come at this with some level of empathy for Pac-12 fans. No matter what the reality is, even if George Kliavkoff is cooking up a $60 million a year per school TV deal, right? He's going to get $600 million from ESPN. No streaming, like everything's over the air. Even if that were what's going on and what's actually happening, that doesn't change the fact that right now sucks to be a Pac-12 fan, because every news story is negative. You've got the Cougar Country Collective throwing up the CW billboards. Everyone's poking fun at you for that. You had the Eye on TV thing. Now, after You felt like it was galvanized. Everyone was coming out saying, puffing our chests. The presidents are talking, saying, look, we're going to get this done. It's happening soon. And now it's like, oh, no, it's not. Like widely across the board been reported that it's not happening soon. It just, you're taking a beating. You're taking a beating in the news cycle every single day. And I know you guys love your conference. You love your school. You don't want to think about losing a spot at the big boy table. And so you're going to puff out your chest and stand up for your league. It's hard to do. You're fighting an unfair fight right now. You're having to do it with one hand tied behind your back. Even if Georgie Boy has the perfect TV deal in his back pocket, you are still fighting the public battle with one hand tied behind your back right now. So from that standpoint, I will grant some empathy for sure there to Pac-12 fans with all of this. And it's because whenever something happens, the other part of it is it's not just that you get one reporter saying something when a story comes out, whether it's the CW or whether it's, hey, this deal is actually not going to happen right now. You don't get it once. You get once, and it'll start with Marshawn, and then it will turn into Dennis Dodd, and then it will turn into The Athletic, and then it will turn into McMurphy. So you get it in waves. You get it in like 4 different waves, even on the same story from everybody. So that is a lot. And I mean, we're Big 12 fans crying. I mean, I certainly remember being very freaked out. I don't know. I guess it would depend on your definition of crying. It was anger. What I seem to remember the most is just like anger, because it was anger at Texas and Oklahoma. But more than that, it really felt like just anger on the grave dancing that was going on out there. It was anger at people from Pac-12 country, but also Big Ten, SEC, Oklahoma and Texas fans, Oklahoma and Texas media. I mean, for me personally, that's what hit the most when it was first happening, because I was still working full time in the industry then. And so it was like you're seeing Oklahoma and Texas media members that you've like been in press boxes with, like really kind of just like celebrating and doing a little bit of grave dancing and throwing some shots at the Big 12 on the way out. And it's like, hey man, like you realize like this could be very much affecting my livelihood here. Do we need to be doing that? So I just remember a lot of anger more so than anything. But we also didn't, the part about the Big 12's plight at that point and the Pac-12's plight right now is that Bob Bowlesby acted like that. It happened. There were the Mandel stories that we were mad about with the deceptive TV numbers that Sam Bradshaw corrected. And we were angry, but it was over pretty fast but with the Big 12 then giving you new life, like new reason for hope, at least not complete and utter despair, because 4 teams were added in very short order. And so Bowlesby acting so fast saved you from having to endure these negative news cycles and taking some irreparable damage to your reputation, which is what is happening right now to the Pac-12. So you got out of that pretty quickly. And I think that is one of the key differences here. So I do feel like it's a little bit apples to oranges to compare what Pac-12 fans are like right now, what Pac-12 fans are doing right now, to what Big 12 fans acted like and what Big 12 fans were doing. There are 2 different scenarios, because the Pac-12 fans, in their defense, they've just had to weather a lot more of a storm here than the Big 12 did. And it was not only that, it was like, the 4 new schools got added, and then we were pretty close to football season. And then the Big 12 had a really successful 2021 football season with the great ratings in that Big 12 championship game, and Cincinnati, one of the new members, making the playoff, Oklahoma State and Baylor coming close to making the playoff. You had a very positive year actually on the field too. Not only the distraction of games happening, but a very positive year on the field. So things started to turn around pretty quickly. The Pac-12 has been stuck in this negative news cycle for a very long time at this point. We're looking back, it was June, right? June. So we're coming up on a year. We're coming up on a year of this for Pac-12 folks. So that's what I will say. Look at that, Pac-12 fans. We can get along a little bit. I'm trying to be nice. I'm having some empathy here tonight. I'm sure the chat just loves that, is completely back on board with me. I'm sure all the fans that you mentioned, Calico, are completely back on board with me after that soliloquy there. But I digress. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? Appreciate you being here, Browns and Beers. Always appreciate your support of the channel. Thank you, my friend. Browns and Beer says, as a former KSU media insider, I have to ask your opinion on the oh boy, wow. Okay, I have to ask your opinion on the band's Starship Enterprise performance from a while ago. I think they had to have known what it looked like. Hugs is killing it in the portal. Well, yes, Hugs is definitely killing it in the portal. In fact, I'll tie this to I saw that, I think it was the Big 12 like deputy director of marketing did an interview where he was asked about the Big 12 trying to go to Mexico, which Brett Yormark had discussed in a podcast recently. And he made the point, like, if the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, wouldn't it make sense to spotlight that sport outside the traditional Big 12 footprint and go international with it, because basketball is such an international game? Fair point. I hadn't really considered that, and I'm totally on board with that. If the idea and the vision is bulk up this basketball thing, take basketball only members, make basketball great, separate it from the football rights and get extra money there, shoot, grow it internationally for sure. Maybe it helps you get some more international prospects in, like what West Virginia just did. See that? That's all that radio experience coming back together. Like what West Virginia just did. They got a major international player transferring from Syracuse, and Jesse Edwards. That was a guy, like, for instance, K-State seemed to be interested there. I definitely wanted him. And, Hugs, he got the kid from Arizona. They have the kid from Manhattan is he going to actually play this year? I mean, just know Hugs has put together a pretty impressive roster through the transfer portal. He's doing a really good job. So I agree with you on that, man. Agree with you. The guy still seemingly has some juice left at this point in his career, which credit to him for that, man. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. Now, okay, so Starship Enterprise that you asked about, that is a blast from the past. I had not thought about that in a very long time. In fact, let me see if I can pull up a news article about it. K-State banned Starship Enterprise. 2015. God, that was 8 years ago. That's crazy, man. So the halftime show, it was the halftime show of a game. It was September 5th, so it definitely wasn't a Kansas game. It was just like an early non-con. And the band, I will say this on the front end, like, it's a very well-respected band. They won the Sudler Trophy fairly within the last few years, which is given to the best band in the country. They did a halftime show where they form a Jayhawk, and then they formed what was supposed to be the Starship Enterprise, which is that from Star Trek? I'm not a sci-fi guy at all, so my apologies for embarrassing myself with that. But it's supposed to be like this ship, and it was supposed to be like shooting at the Jayhawk to make it explode or something like that. And instead, this is the first time I've seen this in a while. Just look at the GIF of this. Instead, it looks like a phallic object going into the mouth of a Jayhawk. That's what it was. I mean, that's really what it looked like. Instead of the Starship Enterprise, it looked like a very phallic object going into the mouth of the Jayhawk, and it created quite a controversy. I believe Frank Trace, who was the band director, apologized for that. I think that's what I saw here in this article. Yeah, band director apologized for the misinterpretation. Star Trek. Okay, it was Star Trek. I'm trying to see if we got the apology. Oh, it says the Facebook post is no longer available. So I guess we're too old on that. What do I think, man? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna ride. This is not the answer that you want, Browns and Beers, but I'm gonna ride the fence a little bit on that. Like, on one hand, yes, there are definitely some, like, there certainly, I think we're getting better, thanks in large part to Jerome Tang, and thanks in large part to generally beating Kansas a lot this year. Like, we're getting a little bit better as a fan base, but there's definitely been, an inferiority complex going on for a while. So yes, like, would I put it past K-State to do something like that? Certainly not in 2015. No, I wouldn't. But like, that band is legit, and it's a well-oiled machine. Frank Trace is very well respected. So I just can't see them directly doing that and thinking that they would actually, like, get away with something. I have a really hard time coming around to that. So I'll kind of just ride the fence in the middle there. And maybe it was like, hey, we know how this could be interpreted, but we kind of have an out here. But he's too well respected in the profession and too serious of a guy from the very little that I know about him for me to believe really fully that was like the whole idea was to make it look like that and just go gung ho with it. So that's the answer I would give you. And credit on the most creative question that I've gotten in a while on one of these live streams, Browns and Peers, for you remembering that. That is a pretty good poll. That is a pretty good poll. Cougar Tracks. What's up, Cougar Tracks? And by the way, just a couple more minutes here. So if you have something and you want to get it in, make sure you do it now. Click the $ below the chat box where it says say something in order to get your question or comment in here. Cougar Tracks says, if it will keep Utah out of the Big 12, I hope the Pac-10 survives. Strong words there. I'd be interested to poll BYU fans on all of that. If your choices are Pac-12 survives, right? Pac-12 survives, Utah stays out of the Big 12, or Pac-12 implodes, but Utah comes to the Big 12, what you guys would all choose. I'd be interested in the pulse of the fan base on that. Somebody, BYU fan, get on it with a poll on that one for me. I would be very curious what it is that you guys choose there. I don't know. At this point, I'm a little exhausted by the Utah fans. I'm sure I would get over it, and I would, eventually come around to welcoming a very good football program for sure into the Big 12 with that. And Cougar Tracks, I would just say a part of the appeal to me would be the rivalry. There between BYU and Utah, to actually have it be a part of the conference and see the Holy War up close and personal. I would be, after now having a little more intimate knowledge of both fan bases, I'd be very interested to watch that. Glenn, what's up, Glenn? Speaking of BYU fans, Glenn, welcome to the show. Appreciate your support as always. Glenn says, when are you going to go to a BYU football game? Man, as much as I can right now say this, like, I promise you, unless there is some major life event or, God, maybe I'm married by that point in time. Not looking great right now, but we'll see. And then my wife or somebody were to hold me back from going to the game. I mean, without any of that, like, I promise you, I will go to the first K-State BYU football game in Provo. Promise you that will happen. Unless there is some kind of major life event, something keeping me from doing that. I very, very much want to. So that's it. Outside of that, I mean, it might be a little tough, but like, if I were going to do it, I might want to go to, I don't know if I could swing both in one day. Could I do like a Utah and a BYU football game both in the same day, something like that? Be cool if I could hit up multiple spots there. But yeah, I would really like to get to a game there. I definitely want to go to the first K-State game there. I don't know if the schedule is going to really allow it, but I can definitely work to build my schedule around K-State events. So would love to do that. Would love to meet a bunch of you guys there. I really look forward to that happening. I mean, frankly, I was pretty disappointed that it didn't happen this year. I was pretty disappointed that the schedule didn't break this year, and it may be a little while based on the schedule before it actually happens. But I really, really, really want to get there for the first K-State BYU football game out there. So there is that. Because I owe it to myself. I owe it to myself because I missed that. I didn't get to go to that Cotton Bowl in '96 when I was 7 years old. I didn't get to go, so I've got to make up for it and watch the next K-State BYU football game. Provo Cougar fan. What's up, Provo Cougar fan? Provo Cougar fan says, Pac-Tanic sinks. Utah goes to the Mountain West Conference. Pac-Tanic. That's pretty good. Maybe that one will stick. We've got Overlord Karen. All hail, Overlord Karen. We have 12 and on. We've had a lot of these monikers that have stuck. I'm really kind of hoping that Pac-Tanic sticks, because that's pretty clever. That's good. Provo Cougar fan. Utah, God, what am I doing? The BYU fan base, man. The BYU fan base. You guys come up with the CW billboard. Now you've got the Pac-Tanic. You're on one. Pretty sharp. Bringing the A game today, BYU. Appreciate that. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? Oh, Kevin. Great question, Kevin. Great question. Thank you for your support. Kevin says, Iowa State, Utah, and Kentucky fans. F, marry, kill. F, marry, kill. Iowa State, Utah, Kentucky. All right. I got to think about this. Look, I think the world needs to be rid of Kentucky fans. So they're going to go in the kill category. Not very many redeeming qualities there at all from my experience in being able to, I would say, troll them, but really it was just pointing out the realities of their program and the way that their media handled things before the game. And then after the game, after getting their ass kicked by K-State, and Calipari whining and the fans whining and being whiny about Jerome Tang. Not many redeeming qualities there in any of that. So Kentucky fans would be lowest on my list. They'll get killed. Iowa State seems more like the marrying type. Midwestern values. Utah, even though, I mean, they are in flyover truck stop country, whether or not they want to believe it, they are trying to be something they are not. They are trying to be like, Beverly Hills, 90210, Hollywood, elites, or, Palo Alto, whatever. They're trying to do that thing too much. So I don't feel like they're really marriage material right now. They've got a wandering eye with all that stuff. They're trying to, that's definitely like more just in the F category, get it over with once, get out of there. Meanwhile, Iowa State, I guess we're married, Iowa State fans. We're married. I don't know how that happened, but we're walking down the aisle all of a sudden. We're walking down the aisle all of a sudden. So that would be my, yeah, I don't need any part of Kentucky fans ever again for the rest of my life. And then we'll take the Iowa State fan marriage. Great question though, Kevin. Outstanding work with that question. I love that. McKay Boyle, what's up, McKay Boyle? Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the question. Comment. McKay Boyle says, would love Colorado, Arizona, San Diego State, Creighton to join the Big 12, and Utah to see USA. Love your work, John. Go Cougars. I love that we're now sending, it's not even the Mountain West anymore. We're sending Utah to Conference USA. Who's in Conference USA right now? Conference USA members. I'm seeing it there. Was that Florida Atlantic? Conference USA is Charlotte, FIU, Florida Atlantic, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, North Texas, Rice, UAB. All right, we'll send Utah to CUSA. That's fine. I'm sure they would dominate there too. They probably win a lot of CUSA titles. Kyle Whittingham he'll run CUSA. He'll run it. So I'm here for it, McKay. I'm here for it. Very, very subtle dig there to change it from the Mountain West Conference to CUSA, but making me laugh here. Cougar Tracks. What's up, Cougar Tracks? All right, this is a good pitch here. Cougar Tracks says you need to come to a BYU Utah football game, then you'll see what we mean about Utah fans. That's a good pitch. You might be able to, you know what? Maybe we can talk about that. That would be one game that I would be tempting to go out of my way to make a trip for. If it's not going to be K-State, it would be BYU Utah. I've got a little stake in it. I might need your guys' protection for me if I do go. I might need you to keep the Utah fans away from me. But as long as I can be hanging out in the right spots with all of you guys, that might be something we could do. We'll put a pin in that. Let's put a pin in that discussion. Calico, what's up, Calico? Calico says, why not K-State, BYU for basketball? Yeah, we could do that. Might be able to do that. The problem with that is that could be like a Tuesday, Wednesday game, which would be just really hard to swing. If it were a Saturday game on the weekend, that would be more doable. No, I would not be opposed to that. I certainly would not be opposed to that. So yeah, that could be a way to make it happen too. Part of the appeal is just obviously, if I were there for the basketball game, I could take in the beautiful scenery that's there too. But part of the appeal about the football game is it's just such a damn beautiful view, man. I mean, or even baseball too. If you're there for a baseball game, just a view in the background. I don't know that there's a better setting in college football as far as that goes. So that's what I just really, really want to experience that. But that's not a bad idea. You guys are coming up with some pretty good ideas. Here to try and coax me there. So we'll see. You guys put a pin in it, keep trying, and we'll see what we can work out. I'm excited to get there. I'm very excited to get there. I've never been to the state of Utah, and it looks beautiful, and love all of you BYU fans. So definitely we'll get there at some point. I think that's going to wrap it up for me here tonight. Fun chat. Thank you guys for being here with me. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you're spreading the word about the channel, whether on social media, word of mouth, whoever it might be, fans of the conference, fans of your squad that you think would be interested in this channel. Please let them know about it. Continue to do so. If you want to support the channel and you're catching up to this after the fact, you can do so on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 in order to do that. Free way to do it. Just like the video, leave a comment. All of that stuff helps with the YouTube algorithm. It is always much appreciated. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's at JL Kurtz if you want to follow me on Twitter as well to get some more updates. So with that, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I will be talking to you soon. We'll see what happens at this board meeting. tomorrow at 7:45 a.m. And, I'll keep you updated here on the channel. So take care, and I will talk to you guys soon.